Captain Jake Morrison stared at the alien ship through the viewport of his exploration vessel. The horizon. The massive craft looked like nothing he had ever seen before. Its surface was smooth and silver, with strange symbols glowing blue along its sides. After 6 months of deep space exploration, this was humanity's first contact with intelligent alien life. Jake pressed the communication button on his captain's chair. The bridge crew of 12 humans watched their screens with wide eyes. They had trained for this moment, but nothing could have prepared them for how strange it would feel. "This is Captain Morrison of the Earth vessel Horizon. Can you understand our language?" Jake spoke slowly into the microphone. The response came back in perfect English, though the voice sounded like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. "Greetings, humans of Earth. I am Ambassador Velter of the Zentari Confederation. We have been monitoring your communications and learned your speech patterns. May we request permission to board your vessel?" Jake looked at his first officer, Lieutenant Amy Rodriguez. She nodded and gave him a thumbs up. "Permission granted, Ambassador. We welcome this historic meeting and our leader." Jake sat across from the most beautiful and terrifying creature he had ever seen. Ambassador Velter stood 7 feet tall with pale blue skin that seemed to glow from within. Her eyes were large and silver, and when she moved, it looked like she was floating instead of walking. She wore robes that shifted colors like the ocean. "Captain Morrison, your species is very young by galactic standards," Velter said, her voice like soft music. "You have only just learned to travel between stars. But your timing is remarkable. Dr. Lisa Hamilton, Earth's best expert on alien politics, leaned forward in her chair. She had been chosen to join this mission because of her ability to understand complex political situations. "What do you mean by our timing, Ambassador?" Velter's expression became serious. "The galaxy is in crisis, Dr. Hamilton. For 3,000 years, our unified species council has kept peace among over 400 different alien races. But we have a problem that threatens everything." Jake felt his heart race. "What kind of problem?" "3 problems, actually," Velter continued. "First, something called the Void Swarm is coming from the dark spaces between galaxies. These creatures eat entire star systems. They have already destroyed 17 worlds, and they are moving toward the center of our galaxy." The human crew exchanged worried glances. Amy Rodriguez spoke up. "How long do we have?" "Perhaps 2 years before they reach the core systems where billions of lives exist," Velter replied. "But that is not our only concern. 2 of our major species, the Crystri and the Nephilim, are at war. The Crystri live on crystal worlds and need certain minerals to survive. The Nephilim live in the gas clouds around giant planets and need the same minerals. They have been fighting for 50 years, and their war is destroying the trade routes that keep our galaxy connected. Dr. Hamilton took notes on her tablet. "And the third problem? Pirates," Velter said with disgust. "Led by someone called the Raider King Zexamer. His fleets control 6 major trade routes. Ships carrying food, medicine, and supplies cannot get through. Entire systems are starving." Jake rubbed his forehead. These problems sounded massive. "Why are you telling us this? We are just one small planet with basic space technology." Velter's silver eyes seemed to shine brighter. "Because, Captain Morrison, in 3,000 years, our council has never been able to choose a leader. Every species fears being controlled by another species. We are a democracy without executives. We can vote on things, but no one can make quick decisions or take charge during emergencies." "That sounds like a serious flaw in your system," Dr. Hamilton observed. "Indeed it is," Velter agreed. "But there is something in our founding laws that we had forgotten until recently. Any species can volunteer to lead during galactic emergencies, provided they meet 3 requirements. They must have military capability, they must be diplomatically neutral, and they must have support from member species." Amy Rodriguez looked confused. "But we humans are completely new to galactic politics. We don't have advanced weapons or huge fleets. That is exactly why you are perfect," Velter explained. "You have no enemies in the galaxy because you are new. You have no territorial disputes because you own no territory beyond your home system. You have no old grudges or ancient hatreds. Most importantly, your species thinks differently than any of us." Jake was beginning to understand. "You want Earth to lead the galaxy, not want, Captain, need." Velter stood up and walked to the viewport, looking out at the stars. "In the past 3 days, I have studied your species' history. You have fought terrible wars, but you have also created amazing things. You have art, music, literature that moves the soul. You have survived ice ages, plagues, and disasters that would have destroyed other species. Most importantly, you solve problems in ways that none of us would think of. Dr. Hamilton looked at her notes. Ambassador, even if this is possible, how would it work? We are one planet with a few billion people. Your council represents hundreds of species across thousands of worlds. The emergency leadership position would be temporary, Velter explained, just until the current crises are resolved. The leader would have authority to make military decisions, coordinate resources, and negotiate between conflicting parties. But they would still answer to the council for major policy changes. Jake felt overwhelmed. This is way beyond what our government expected when they sent us to explore this sector. Perhaps, Velter said, but sometimes history chooses us rather than us choosing history. Captain, I have been authorized to extend a formal invitation to your government. Earth can run for the position of emergency galactic leader. The election would take place in 6 months, giving your people time to learn about our galaxy and for our species to learn about you. The bridge fell silent. Jake looked at his crew, all of whom seemed stunned by this impossible offer. Finally, Amy Rodriguez spoke what everyone was thinking. Sir, this could change everything for humanity. Access to alien technology, medicine, knowledge that could solve our problems on Earth. But it would also mean taking responsibility for problems bigger than anything we have ever faced. Dr. Hamilton closed her tablet and looked directly at Jake. Captain, I think we need to contact Earth immediately. President Carter needs to hear about this. Jake nodded and turned back to Ambassador Velter. We will need to discuss this with our government. But I have one question. Why do you believe humans can succeed where others have failed? Velter smiled, and for the first time, she looked hopeful. Because, Captain Morrison, when I told you about our 3 impossible problems, you did not say they were hopeless. You asked how long we had to solve them. That is the difference between your species and ours. You see challenges where we see disasters. As Jake prepared to send the most important message in human history back to Earth, he realized that humanity was about to face its greatest test. The galaxy needed leaders, and somehow, Earth had just been asked to vote itself into the job. The question was whether they were ready for it. President Helen Carter sat in the Oval Office staring at the message from Captain Morrison. She had read it 5 times, but it still seemed impossible. The leader of the free world was being asked to run for leader of the entire galaxy. Secretary of Defense Ryan Cooper paced back and forth in front of the president's desk. His face was red with worry. Madam President, this is insane. We have barely figured out how to keep peace on our own planet. How can we possibly lead hundreds of alien species? Secretary of State Maria Santos disagreed. She sat calmly in her chair, holding a folder full of reports. Ryan, think about what this could mean for humanity. These aliens have technology that could solve climate change, cure diseases, and give us unlimited clean energy. This is the opportunity of a lifetime. President Carter rubbed her temples. The decision felt too big for one person to make. What do our experts think? Dr. Lisa Hamilton appeared on the video screen from the horizon. Her face looked tired, but excited. Madam President, I have been studying the alien government structure for the past week. Their system is actually very democratic. The emergency leader position has strict limits. We would not be dictators. We would be more like crisis managers. But do we have the resources to handle galactic problems? President Carter asked. That is the interesting part. Dr. Hamilton replied. The aliens do not want us to solve everything ourselves. They want us to coordinate their efforts. Think of it like being the conductor of a huge orchestra. We do not need to play every instrument. We just need to help everyone play together. Ryan Cooper stopped pacing. What about military threats? This void swarm sounds terrifying. The aliens have powerful weapons and ships, Dr. Hamilton explained, but they cannot agree on how to use them together. Each species has different fighting styles and communication methods. They need someone neutral to coordinate their forces. President Carter looked at her advisors. What about the political risks if we fail? It could be a disaster for Earth. Maria Santos opened her folder. I have been running computer simulations with our best political scientists. The biggest risk is not failing. The biggest risk is not trying. If these crises destroy galactic civilization, Earth would be alone in a dangerous universe. The president made her decision. Dr. Hamilton, I want you to lead a fact-finding mission. Take Ambassador Paul Jenkins and a team of experts. Learn everything you can about their government and their problems. If this is real, we need to understand what we are getting into. 2 weeks later, Dr. Hamilton and Ambassador Jenkins stood on the bridge of the massive alien ship called Nexus Prime. The vessel was like a floating city, home to thousands of aliens from dozens of different species. The ship itself was the mobile capital of the Unified Species Council. Ambassador Jenkins stared in wonder at the aliens walking past them. Some looked like giant insects with colorful wings, others were tall and thin like living trees. A few seemed to be made of living water that somehow held a human shape. Dr. Hamilton, Jenkins whispered, "I have been a diplomat for 20 years, but I have never seen anything like this." A small alien that looked like a friendly robot approached them. "Welcome to Nexus Prime. I am Guide Unit 47. I will show you around our capital ship." As they walked through the corridors, Dr. Hamilton asked questions about everything she saw. The ship had artificial gravity, air that could be breathed by dozens of different species, and translation devices that made communication possible between creatures who could not even hear the same sound frequencies. "How do you make decisions with so many different species?" Jenkins asked. Guide Unit 47's lights blinked in what seemed like sadness. "Very slowly, very carefully, often not at all. Would you like to observe a council session?" The humans entered a massive chamber where hundreds of aliens sat in groups organized by species. At the center, a tall alien with 4 arms was trying to speak, but other aliens kept interrupting with their own languages. "They are debating how to respond to the latest void swarm attack," Guide Unit 47 explained. "The attack happened 6 days ago. They are still arguing about whether to send rescue ships." Dr. Hamilton watched in amazement as the debate continued. For 3 hours, without any decisions being made, species representatives would argue, then leave to consult with their homeworlds, then return with new demands. After the session ended, Jenkins shook his head. "No wonder they need help. At this rate, the Void Swarm will destroy everything before they decide how to fight back." That evening, Dr. Hamilton and Jenkins attended a dinner where they met aliens from many different species. The humans were surprised by how curious the aliens were about Earth culture. A tall insect-like alien named Buscle asked about human music. When Dr. Hamilton played some classical music on her phone, the alien's wings began to flutter in rhythm. "This is beautiful. Our species only makes sounds for communication. We never thought of making sounds for pleasure," an aquatic alien called. Merlin was fascinated by pictures of Earth's oceans. "Your planet has so much water on the surface. We live in the gas clouds of our world and have never seen liquid oceans like these." A warrior-like alien named General Thokmer studied human military history on Jenkins' tablet. "Your species has fought many wars, but you also have rules about protecting civilians and prisoners. This is honorable. Many species in the galaxy do not have such codes." As the evening continued, Dr. Hamilton began to understand why the aliens were interested in human leadership. Everywhere they went, aliens asked questions about how humans solve problems, how they organize their governments, and how they balance different interests. The next day brought their first real test. A fight broke out between representatives of the Crystri and Nephilim species in the main conference room. The Crystri were angry because the Nephilim had attacked one of their mining operations. The Nephilim claimed the Crystri had invaded their territory. Traditional council procedure required forming a committee to study the incident. The committee would take weeks to make recommendations. Meanwhile, both species were preparing for larger battles. Dr. Hamilton had a different idea. What if both species presented their side of the story to the entire council at the same time? Not as a trial, but as a conversation where everyone could ask questions and suggest solutions. The idea was shocking. The council had never tried direct negotiation like this. Some aliens thought it was too risky. Others worried it would make the fighting worse. Ambassador Jenkins supported Dr. Hamilton's plan. "On Earth, we have learned that sometimes the best way to solve a problem is to get everyone talking." In the same room, the joint session took place. 3 days later, for the first time in 50 years, Crystri and Nephilim leaders sat in the same room. The Crystri leader, a being that looked like living crystal, explained that his people needed rare minerals to survive. The Nephilim leader, a creature that seemed to be made of gas and energy, explained that the same minerals were essential for their reproduction. Dr. Hamilton asked a simple question that changed everything. "Are there any places in the galaxy where these minerals exist, but no one lives?" The room fell silent. For 50 years, both species had been fighting over territory that belonged to someone else. They had never considered mining in empty space. A small alien scientist raised what might have been a hand. The asteroid fields in the Kepler systems have large amounts of these minerals. No one lives there because the radiation is too dangerous. For most species, within hours, the Christri and Nephilim had agreed to explore joint mining operations in the asteroid fields. It was not a complete solution, but it was the first time they had agreed on anything in decades. Word of the successful negotiations spread quickly throughout Nexus Prime. Aliens who had been skeptical of human involvement began to pay attention. Species that had never spoken to each other started asking Dr. Hamilton and Jenkins questions about human diplomatic methods. Ambassador Jenkins sent a message back to Earth that evening. Madam President, I think we might actually be able to do this. The aliens do not need us to be perfect. They need us to be different. They need us to see solutions that they have missed, because they have been doing things the same way for thousands of years. President Carter read the message and made her decision. The next morning, she called a press conference that would change human history. My fellow Americans and citizens of the world, President Carter began. I am announcing today that the United States, representing Earth, will formally accept the nomination to serve as emergency leader of the Galactic Council. This is not a decision I make lightly, but it is a responsibility I believe we must accept. The announcement sent shockwaves around the world. Some people were excited about the possibilities. Others were terrified of the risks. But for the first time in human history, Earth was about to run for political office on a galactic scale. The campaign for the leadership of the galaxy was about to begin, and humanity had just entered a race they had never imagined they could win. The news of Earth's candidacy for galactic leadership spread across the galaxy like wildfire. On hundreds of worlds, alien species debated whether these newcomers could really solve problems that had existed for centuries. President Carter knew that words alone would not win the election. Earth needed to prove it could handle galactic crises. That opportunity came sooner than anyone expected. Admiral Steve Parker was reviewing star charts in his office at Earth Space Command. When the emergency alert came through, his communication screen lit up with an urgent message from Ambassador Jenkins on Nexus Prime. Admiral, we have a situation, Jenkins said, his face tense with worry. Raider King's Exemer has just attacked a Vex High Colony world. 3 million innocent aliens are under attack right now. Admiral Parker stood up quickly. What is the Council's response? They are forming a committee to discuss military options. Jenkins replied. The committee will meet for 3 days to debate the proper response. By then, the colony will be destroyed. Parker felt anger rising in his chest. 3 million lives were at stake, and the aliens wanted to have meetings. What about their military forces? Do they have ships in the area? 6 different species have ships within 1 day's travel of the colony, Jenkins explained, but they refuse to work together without official council approval. Each species wants to use their own battle tactics. Admiral Parker looked at the star charts on his wall. His mind was already planning a response. Ambassador, ask President Carter for permission to lead a joint rescue mission. If we are going to be galactic leaders, we need to act like leaders. 2 hours later, Admiral Parker stood on the bridge of the Earth battleship Liberty, flagship of humanity's small but advanced space fleet. Around him, holographic displays showed the positions of alien ships from 6 different species. This is Admiral Parker of Earth to all ships in the rescue fleet. He spoke into his communicator. We are going to save the Vex High Colony, but we need to work together. I know our species have different fighting styles, but today we fight as one. The responses came back in various alien languages, but the translation computers made the meaning clear. The Christri heavy cruisers would provide long-range firepower. The Merla stealth ships would scout enemy positions. The Krithek assault vessels would handle close combat. The Zentari destroyers would protect the rescue ships. The Nephilim fighters would provide air support. Lieutenant Commander Amy Rodriguez sat in the pilot seat of her experimental fighter, the Falcon 7. She had been promoted after her excellent service during the first contact mission. Now she was about to lead human fighters into their first galactic battle. All fighters, this is Rodriguez, she said over the radio. Remember your training, but be ready to adapt. We are fighting alongside aliens with abilities we have never seen before. The combined fleet dropped out faster than light travel. Near the Vex High Colony world, the scene was chaos. Raider ships were bombing cities while the insect-like Vex High tried to evacuate their people. Explosions lit up the planet's surface as pirate forces destroyed everything they could not steal. Admiral Parker studied the tactical display. The raiders had positioned their ships in a defensive formation that would be difficult to break. Traditional galactic military doctrine would call for a direct frontal assault, but Parker had a different idea. All ships, this is Admiral Parker, we are going to use a pincer movement. Crystal cruisers will attack from the left. Galactic assault ships will attack from the right. Merla's stealth ships will sneak behind enemy lines and target their command ship. Everyone else will support the main attack. The alien commanders had never heard of a pincer movement, but they trusted the human admiral. The battle began with brilliant flashes of energy weapons. As the Crystal opened fire from long range, the crystal-powered lasers cut through pirate shields like paper. Amy Rodriguez led her squadron of human and alien fighters straight into the heart of the battle. Her Falcon 7 spun and rolled through enemy fire, using maneuvers that amazed her alien wingmates. Rodriguez, how are you avoiding those missiles? Asked her Centauri wingmate, whose voice sounded like singing crystals. It is called a barrel roll, Amy replied, spinning her fighter in a corkscrew pattern. Human pilots invented it for atmospheric combat, but it works in space too. The human tactical flexibility proved crucial as the battle developed. When the Galactic assault ships found themselves outnumbered, Admiral Parker quickly redirected Nephilim gas fighters to support them. When the Merla stealth ships discovered the Raider command vessel was heavily shielded, Parker ordered the Crystally to focus all their firepower on one point of the shield. The turning point came when Amy Rodriguez spotted 3 Centauri cruisers, about to be destroyed by a massive Raider battleship. Instead of following her original orders, she made a split-second decision. All fighters, follow me. She radioed, we are going to save those cruisers. Amy led her mixed squadron of human and alien fighters in a desperate attack on the Raider battleship. Her barrel roll maneuvers confused the enemy gunners long enough for the squadron to penetrate the ship's defenses. The combined firepower of 6 different species destroyed the battleship's main weapons. Thank you, human pilot, came the grateful voice of the Centauri cruiser captain. You have saved 300 lives today. The battle ended with complete victory for the rescue fleet. Raider King's Exemer S forces retreated, leaving behind their damaged ships and stolen cargo. The Vex High colony was saved, and 3 million alien lives were preserved. But the real victory was not military, it was political. Within hours, news of the successful rescue spread across the galaxy. For the first time in centuries, 6 different species had fought together as a unified force. The human ability to coordinate different fighting styles and adapt to changing battle conditions had impressed military leaders throughout the galaxy. Dr. Hamilton watched the news reports from Nexus Prime with growing excitement. Ambassador Jenkins, look at these responses. 12 more species have just endorsed Earth's candidacy for galactic leadership. Jenkins smiled as he read the messages. The Vex High Council has officially announced their support for humanity. They are calling Admiral Parker the greatest military mind of this century. Meanwhile, on Earth, Dr. Kevin Walsh was working on a different kind of problem. The scientist had been studying samples of the void swarm that alien ships had collected from destroyed worlds. His laboratory was filled with alien technology that he was still learning to use. Dr. Martinez, come look at this, Walsh called to his research partner. Dr. Sophia Martinez was a brilliant physicist who had volunteered to work on the galaxy's most dangerous problem. What did you find, Kevin? She asked, looking at the strange readings on the alien computer screen. The void swarm entities feed on specific energy frequencies. Walsh explained, every piece of modern galactic technology uses these same frequencies for power. It is like they are attracted to the very technology that makes galactic civilization possible. Dr. Martinez studied the data, so the more advanced a civilization becomes, the more attractive it is to the swarm. Exactly, Walsh replied, but look at this. I have been experimenting with modified shield generators. If we change the frequency patterns, we can actually create energy that is toxic to the swarm creatures. The implications were enormous. Instead of running from the void swarm, the galaxy might be able to fight back, but the solution would require cooperation between hundreds of species and precise coordination of their technologies. Dr. Walsh sent his findings to Admiral Parker and Dr. Hamilton. The response was immediate and excited. Humanity was not just offering military leadership. They were offering scientific solutions to the galaxy's greatest threats. However, Not everyone was pleased with Earth's rising influence. In the ancient halls of the Eternal Dominion, Arch and Kel'Thuzad studied reports of the human rescue mission. With growing anger, these primitives think they can lead species that have existed for millions of years. He said to his advisors. His voice was cold and filled with contempt. They have been in space for less than a century. What can they possibly teach us? The Archon's chief advisor, a tall alien with skin like polished metal, bowed respectfully. Lord Kel'Thuzad, many species are impressed by their military success and diplomatic innovations. Then we must remind the galaxy of what happens when upstart species reach too high, the Archon replied. Begin spreading information about human military history. Show them how violent and destructive these creatures can be. Make other species fear what will happen if humans gain too much power. The Archon's propaganda campaign began immediately across the galaxy. Members of the Eternal Dominion shared carefully selected information about human wars, environmental destruction, and social conflicts. They painted humanity as a violent species that would inevitably become galactic tyrants. Some species began to have doubts. The Peaceful Harmony Collective, a group of gentle aliens who had never fought a war, wondered if humans were too aggressive to be trusted with leadership. The Ancient Wise Ones, who valued stability above all else, questioned whether such a young species could handle galactic responsibility. But the propaganda had an unexpected effect. Other species began to study human history more carefully, and what they found surprised them. Yes, humans had fought wars, but they had also created art, music, and literature. They had made mistakes, but they had learned from them. Most importantly, they had developed concepts like human rights, democracy, and international law. The campaign for galactic leadership was becoming more complex every day. Earth had proven it could handle military crises and scientific challenges. But the real test would be winning the trust of hundreds of different species, each with their own fears and hopes for the future. As Election Day approached, the galaxy waited to see if humanity's greatest strength would be enough to overcome the doubts and fears that had kept the galactic community divided for so long. The stakes could not be higher. The future of galactic civilization hung in the balance, and Earth's campaign was just getting started. The galactic election campaign was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. For 3,000 years, the Council had made decisions through slow committees and endless debates. Now, for the first time, they were choosing a leader through a democratic vote. Dan Foster, Earth's best political strategist, set up campaign headquarters aboard Nexus Prime. The former campaign manager for 3 successful presidential elections now faced his biggest challenge ever. Instead of winning votes from one species, he needed to convince over 400 different alien races. Rachel, we need to understand what each species cares about most, Foster told his communications director, Rachel Torres. Her job was to create messages that would appeal to aliens whose minds worked in completely different ways than humans. Rachel studied her reports with growing amazement. Dan, the Harmony Collective makes decisions by singing together until they reach perfect musical agreement. The logic masters only care about mathematical proofs. The emotion feeders literally eat feelings and want leaders who create happy thoughts. Foster rubbed his forehead. This is going to be the strangest campaign in history. Meanwhile, Dr. Hamilton had been traveling to different worlds, meeting with species leaders and explaining Earth's vision for galactic leadership. She discovered that most aliens were curious about humans, but had serious concerns. On the crystal world of Shardai, the Crystry High Council asked her tough questions. Dr. Hamilton, your species is very young. How can we trust you with decisions that affect worlds millions of years old? Dr. Hamilton had prepared for this question. Honorable Crystry, sometimes being young is an advantage. We do not have old prejudices or ancient grudges. We can see solutions that others might miss because we approach problems with fresh eyes. The crystal beings hum in harmony, which their translator explained was thoughtful consideration. Show you as an example. The High Council leader requested. Dr. Hamilton smiled. Your 50-year war with the Nephilim was solved in 3 days. Once we suggested looking for minerals in uninhabited asteroid fields. Sometimes the best solutions are the simple ones that everyone overlooked. The Crystry Council voted to support Earth's candidacy that same day, but the campaign faced a major crisis when the Crystry Nephilim conflict exploded into open warfare again. Despite their agreement to explore asteroid mining, extremists from both species attacked each other's ships near the Kepler system. Traditional council procedure would take weeks to organize a response. By then, the war could spread to dozens of worlds. President Carter made a bold decision. "Dr. Hamilton, I want you to organize an immediate peace conference," Carter said during their video call. "Not a committee or a study group, a real negotiation with both species." Dr. Hamilton felt nervous, but determined. "Madam President, the Council has never tried direct negotiations. During active warfare, most species think it is too dangerous. Then, we will show them a new way," Carter replied. "If we are going to lead the galaxy, we need to prove we can handle the hard problems." The peace conference took place on a neutral space station at the edge of the Kepler system. Dr. Hamilton worked with diplomat Laura Bennett to create something the galaxy had never seen before. Instead of each species presenting their demands separately, both sides would sit together and discuss their problems openly. The first day was a disaster. The Christory delegation, led by Commander Zixtel, accused the Nephilim of breaking their mining agreement. The Nephilim delegation, led by Flywmaster Aranis, claimed that Christory had invaded their sacred spawning grounds. "This is exactly why direct negotiations fail," said the council observer, a wise old alien called Elder Vorth. "These species have too much anger to listen to each other," but Dr. Hamilton refused to give up. On the second day, she tried a different approach. Instead of focusing on the conflict, she asked each side to explain what they really needed to survive and thrive. Commander Zixtel spoke first. "Our people need rare minerals to maintain our crystal bodies. Without them, we become weak and eventually shatter into dust." Flywmaster Aranis responded with surprising emotion. "Our young are born in gas clouds that require specific chemical conditions. The mining operations change the chemistry of our spawning areas. Our children die before they can fully form." For the first time, both species understood that they were not fighting over greed or territory. They were fighting for survival. Dr. Hamilton asked the crucial question, "Is there a way to mine the minerals you need without affecting the gas cloud chemistry?" Laura Bennett had been studying both species' technology during the conference. "What if we created separated mining zones with buffer areas between them? The Christory could mine solid asteroids, while the Nephilim could harvest gas from the empty spaces between them." The idea was so simple that both sides were embarrassed they had not thought of it before. Within 3 days, they had signed the Kepler Accords, the first successful peace treaty between silicon-based and gas-based life forms in galactic history. News of the peace agreement spread across the galaxy like a shockwave. Species that had been neutral or skeptical about human leadership began to reconsider. The ancient wise ones sent a message praising human diplomatic innovation. The Harmony Collective composed a song about peace that became popular on dozens of worlds. But Archon Kel'Thuzad was not finished with his opposition campaign. The leader of the Eternal Dominion had been preparing his most devastating attack on human credibility. 3 days before the galactic election, Kel'Thuzad called an emergency session of the council. His message was broadcast to every world in the galaxy. "Fellow beings," the Archon said, his voice filled with righteous anger, "I have discovered that these humans are secretly allied with our greatest enemy. They have captured Void Swarm creatures and are keeping them alive for study. This proves they plan to use the swarm as a weapon against us." The accusation created panic throughout the galaxy. If humans were really working with the Void Swarm, they could not be trusted with any kind of leadership. Several species that had supported Earth's candidacy began to reconsider their positions. President Carter received the news while meeting with her cabinet in Washington. The room fell silent as they watched Kel'Thuzad's speech on the main screen. "Is it true?" asked Secretary Cooper. "Are we really keeping Void Swarm creatures alive?" Dr. Kevin Walsh, who had been working on anti-swarm weapons, spoke up from his video connection. "Yes, we have captured specimens for research, but we are trying to find ways to destroy them, not control them. Can you prove that?" President Carter asked. Dr. Walsh looked tired but confident. "Madam President, we can do better than prove it. We can demonstrate it. Give me 24 hours. The next day, Dr. Walsh held a press conference that was broadcast across the galaxy. Standing in his laboratory surrounded by alien scientists from 12 different species, he explained his research in simple terms. "The Void Swarm feeds on the energy frequencies that power our technology," Walsh said, pointing to a containment unit holding a small swarm creature. "But we have discovered that certain modified frequencies are actually toxic to them." Dr. Sophia Martinez activated a device that changed the energy patterns in the laboratory. The swarm creature in the containment unit immediately began to weaken and dissolve. As you can see, Walsh continued, our research is designed to save the galaxy, not threaten it. We believe we can create weapons that will drive the void swarm away from inhabited systems. The demonstration was watched by billions of beings across hundreds of worlds. The proof was clear and undeniable. Humans were not working with the swarm. They were developing the first effective weapons against it. Archon Kel'Thuz's accusation had backfired completely. Instead of making humans look dangerous, it made them look like the galaxy's best hope for survival. Election Day arrived with unprecedented excitement. For the first time in galactic history, every species would vote simultaneously using quantum encrypted communications. The voting process would take exactly 1 galactic standard day. President Carter spent Election Day in the White House Situation Room, surrounded by her closest advisors. Admiral Parker joined them by video from his flagship. Dr. Hamilton and Ambassador Jenkins connected from Nexus Prime. How are the early returns looking? Carter asked Dan Foster, who was monitoring vote counts from across the galaxy. Foster looked at his computer screens with amazement. Madam President, we are winning by larger margins than we expected. The Crystary voted 90% in favor. The Vexhi voted 100% in favor. Even some species we thought were opposed are supporting us. As the day continued, the results became clear. Humanity's campaign had succeeded beyond their wildest dreams. Species after species announced their support for Earth's emergency leadership. The final count was announced by Eldervorth, the senior member of the council. His ancient voice carried across the galaxy as he read the results. By a vote of 287 species in favor, 156 opposed, and 23 abstaining. The Unified Species Council hereby elects Earth to serve as emergency galactic leader for a period not to exceed 5 galactic standard years. The celebration in the White House was brief, even as congratulations poured in from around the galaxy. Long-range sensors detected a massive disturbance in the outer rim systems. Admiral Parker's face appeared on the main screen, his expression grim. Madam President, we have a problem. The Void Swarm has just launched their largest attack ever. 3 core systems are under assault, and refugee fleets are fleeing in all directions. President Carter felt the weight of galactic leadership settle on her shoulders. The election was over, but the real test was just beginning. Humanity had voted itself into the job of leading the galaxy, and now they had to prove they were worthy of the trust that had been placed in them. Admiral Parker, prepare all available fleets for immediate deployment, Carter ordered. Dr. Walsh, how quickly can you produce those anti-swarm weapons? Give me 72 hours and all the manufacturing capacity you can spare, Walsh replied. Carter looked around the room at her team. They had won the election, but the galaxy's survival now depended on whether they could lead a united defense against the greatest threat any of them had ever faced. The real work was about to begin. The massive ship floated silently above the blue and green world. Commander Zethkar stood at the bridge window, his 4 eyes studying the planet below. Earth looked peaceful from space, but something felt wrong. This world had been silent for 300 years. Commander, we're ready to begin the mission, said Dr. Eleanor Rodriguez. She was the team's expert on dead civilizations. Her green skin showed the nervous patterns of her people when they were excited. Zethkar turned away from the window. Behind him, his research team waited. They came from different worlds across the galaxy. All of them wanted to learn about the humans who had vanished so mysteriously. Where's our human guide? Zethkar asked. She's in Medical Bay 7, Eleanor replied. The doctors say she's ready to wake up. They walked through the ship's corridors to the medical bay. Inside, a human woman lay on a bed surrounded by machines. Her name was Dr. Kira Voss. They had found her floating in space inside a broken colony ship. She had been sleeping in a freeze chamber for over 100 years. The medical officer, a tall being with blue tentacles for arms, checked his readings. Her body is stable. We can wake her now. Do it. Zethkar ordered. The machines hummed softly. Slowly, the human woman's eyes opened. She looked around the room with confusion. When she saw the aliens standing around her bed, her eyes went wide with fear. Where am I? She whispered. You're safe, Elena said in a gentle voice. We found you in space. You've been asleep for a long time. Kira sat up slowly. Her hands shook as she looked at each alien face. How long? About 200 years. Zethkar answered. We are researchers from the Galactic Council. We want to study your homeworld. Kira's face turned pale. Earth. What happened to Earth? That's what we hope you can help us find out, Elena said. Your planet went silent 3 centuries ago. We think your people are gone. Tears filled Kira's eyes. She covered her face with her hands. Gone. All of them. The team waited while she cried. They had seen this reaction before when studying dead worlds. Finding out your entire species was extinct was always hard. After a few minutes, Kira wiped her eyes. Why do you want to study Earth? We study all extinct civilizations, Zethkar explained. It helps us understand how species live and die. Your people were interesting, Kira laughed. But it sounded bitter. Interesting. That's one way to put it. Will you help us? Elena asked. We need someone who understands human culture. Kira was quiet for a long time. Finally, she nodded. I'll help, but I want to see her first. I want to see what's left. 3 hours later, they were in a smaller ship heading down to Earth's surface. Kira sat at the window, watching her homeworld grow larger. The planet looked different from when she had left it. The cities were dark. No lights showed where millions of people once lived. We're landing near what used to be Washington, the pilot announced. Kira's heart hurt as they touched down. The capital city was in ruins. Tall buildings had fallen down. Plants grew through the streets. It looked like no one had lived there for hundreds of years. They put on protective suits and walked outside. The air was clean, cleaner than Kira remembered. Nature had taken back the city. Trees grew where cars used to drive. Flowers bloomed in the old government buildings. Your scans were right, Dr. Marcus Chen said to Zethkar. Marcus was the team's technology expert. This civilization was much more advanced than we thought. They walked through the ruins for an hour. The aliens took pictures and collected samples. Kira just stared at everything. This had been her world. Once. Now it was like walking through a graveyard. Commander, you need to see this, called Dr. Jake Morrison. He was the team's archaeologist. He stood next to what looked like a normal hill, but when they got closer, they could see it wasn't natural. Metal doors were built into the hillside. Strange symbols covered the entrance. It's some kind of underground facility, Jake said. My scanners show it goes down very deep. Kira walked to the doors. She touched the symbols with her gloved hand. I know these markings. This is the Global Archive. What's that? Elena asked. It was a project my government started before I left Earth, Kira explained. They wanted to save all of human knowledge in one place. History, science, art. Everything we ever learned or created. Zethkar moved closer to the doors. Is it still working? Kira pressed her hand against a panel next to the symbols. Lights came on. The heavy doors slowly opened with a deep rumbling sound. It's still active, she said with surprise. They walked into a long tunnel. The walls glowed with soft blue light. The air inside was warm and dry. Their footsteps echoed as they went deeper underground. The tunnel led to a huge room filled with strange machines. Lights blinked on tall towers that reached up to the ceiling. The machines hummed with power. Incredible, Marcus whispered. These quantum storage systems are more advanced than anything we have. How much information is stored here? Elena asked. Kira walked to a control panel. Numbers and symbols appeared on screens around them. Everything. 10,000 years of human history. Every book, every movie, every scientific discovery. The entire story of my people. Zethkar felt excited and nervous at the same time. This was the greatest archaeological find in galactic history. They could learn everything about humanity from these machines. Can you access the data? He asked Kira. Kira's hands moved over the controls. More screens lit up around the room. Images of humans appeared on the displays. Cities, wars, celebrations, discoveries. The story of an entire species waiting to be read. I can access it, she said quietly. But I have to warn you about something. What? Zethkar asked. Kira turned to face the alien team. Her expression was serious and sad. You think you know humans from the few encounters your people had with us. But that was just the beginning of our story. You saw us when we were trying to be peaceful, when we were holding back. She gestured at the screens showing human history. This archive contains the real story of humanity, all of it, the good and the bad, the beautiful and the terrible. We're prepared for whatever we find, Zethkar said. Kira shook her head. No, you're not. None of your species are. You've never seen anything like humans before. What do you mean? Elena asked. I mean that after you learn the truth about us, you might wish you had never found this place. Kira said, humans are not like other species. We're not like anyone else in the galaxy. She pressed a button. The main screen showed the beginning of the archive. Thousands of years of human history stretched out before them. You want to know what happened to humanity? Kira asked. You want to know why we disappeared? The answers are all here. But remember, I warned you. The alien research team looked at each other nervously. They had come here expecting to study a simple extinct civilization. Now they wondered what they were really about to discover. Show us. Commander Zethkar said. Kira nodded and activated the archive. Don't say I didn't warn you.